We are so excited to be doing this panel. My name is Mallika Chopra. I am a mom, an entrepreneur, and just have a book out called Living with Intent, My Somewhat Messy Journey. But we're here today to talk about meditation. I learned how to meditate when I was 9 years old, which is 35 years ago. Many of you may be familiar with my father, the well-known author Deepak Chopra, and so I feel very honored that I've kind of grown up in this space and have kind of a lot of experience in it. But I really want to get to our panel, all of whom are really esteemed, successful individuals, many of whom have kind of discovered meditation and been meditating actually for decades as well. And people like Goldie and Russell, who have been friends of my family's for a long, long time, Sara and Allan as well, and the work that they've been doing is really remarkable. So we wanted to get right into the science and some of the most recent research on meditation and mindfulness. So we're going to start with Sara Lazar. Sara is in the psychiatry department at Mass General and an assistant professor in psychology at Harvard Medical School, who has been doing a lot of the cutting-edge research on meditation and mindfulness techniques. So we had a call before, and we thought, the best way is let's just dive in and really hear some of the latest research on meditation.
Right. And I thought I would start by talking a little bit about my story, actually.
Please do. Yeah.
So, because I think it's important, especially in this sort of group, to understand. So when I was in graduate school, I was a molecular biologist. And at that point, if you said yoga and meditation, what sprung to my mind was images of people sitting and sitar music and burning incense, and my eyes would roll, right? And I didn't think very highly of it. And at the time, I was a runner. And I overtrained and I developed knee and back problems. So I went to see a physical therapist, and they told me to stop running and just stretch. And so as I was leaving the physical therapist's office, I happened to see an ad for a vigorous yoga class that promised to promote strength and flexibility and endurance. So I thought this would be a great way to just stretch and stay in shape. And I was training for a marathon at the time. And so I thought, okay, maybe I could still run the marathon. So I went to the yoga class purely as a way of doing physical therapy. I was completely skeptical about any mind-body benefits. And I'd been a runner for about 10 years at that point. I ran in high school and college, and I always did lots of stretching. And after a couple weeks, I knew that this wasn't just stretching. There was something more to it than just exercise. And it was having a profound effect on me. I was reducing my stress. I was less reactive. I was more focused, more compassionate. And it really had a huge impact on me. And so that's why I decided after graduate school to switch and do this research exclusively to find out what exactly was happening in the brain when one does yoga and meditation. So the most recent research that we've done is actually the first slide, slide 1, is what we did is we took people and who had never meditated before, and we put them through an 8-week meditation program, 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program. And we looked at their brains, and we compared them to people who were just scanned 8 weeks apart, who weren't going through a program. And we saw that compared to the people doing nothing, we could actually see changes in brain structure from over the course of these 8 weeks. And so this first region we found is the hippocampus. This is the main important region for learning and memory, right? This is the main memory part of your brain. And it's an area that's heavily negatively impacted by depression and PTSD. And as you can see, there was virtually no change in the controls, but a significant increase in gray matter in the group that goes through the 8-week program. And gray matter, in your brain you have white matter and gray matter. White matter is just wiring, just connections, versus gray matter is the part of the brain where the thinking is actually happening. And so this is consistent with this area of the brain having more activity and being able to better work because it has more gray matter. Another region we found is on slide 2. This is an area called the TPJ. This is an area that's very important for creativity and seeing things from other people's point of view. So it's a key region important for empathy and compassion. And again, you see no change in the controls and a very significant change in the meditation group. Another region we found actually got smaller. This is on slide 3. This is the amygdala. The amygdala is the main fight or flight part of the brain. It's negative emotions, fear, and what we found, and stress. And what we found is that after the 8 weeks, it actually got smaller, and that the change in stress correlated with the change in brain matter structure. So this really suggests that people aren't just saying, oh, I feel less stressed because it's the passage of time, or it's because it's what we, the scientists, want to hear. There's an actual biological mechanism underlying the change in stress. And what's interesting is this analogous part of the brain in animals gets bigger if you put them through a stress protocol. So if you take them and you put them and stress them out in various different ways, that part gets bigger. So it's really nice that we have this animal data to sort of support it. We've also done studies with long-term meditators and yoga practitioners, and we look at their brains compared to people who have not done yoga or meditation before. And so the final slide, slide 4, and so the areas in red are the areas where there's more gray matter in the meditators compared to the controls. And what's interesting is here in the front of the brain, it's right behind your eye. This is an area of the brain that's important for working memory and executive decision making. And that area circled in green is the primary region that is associated with what's commonly referred to as IQ, right? So it's also known as fluid intelligence. So it's your ability to take novel information and do something useful and new with it. And in the graph to the right, what you see is the red is the controls and the blue is the meditators. And it's well known the entire front half of the brain shrinks as we age. And this is why as we get older, we're a little slower, we're not quite as sharp as we were when we were younger. And what we can see is that the meditators in this one region, that it appears that their brains are not shrinking, that they're actually able to preserve this part of their brain because they're meditating. And so that first study, we didn't know that we're going to find this, so we didn't assess IQ. But now we've done a follow-up study, and we actually gave long-term meditators and long-term yoga practitioners an IQ test, and we see the same thing, that the controls, it goes down with age, versus in the meditators and controls, it's more preserved with aging. So it really does suggest that in addition to helping reduce stress and help with emotional reactivity, that actually helps preserve brain function with aging. And these are all healthy, normal people.
Great.
So that's the data.
So, when my father started talking about the mind-body connection and things like meditation, transcendental meditation, and other practices, 30 years ago, he was labeled the East Asian witch doctor who sold snake oil. And today we're sitting here on stage sharing all the benefits. And it's remarkable, and it's really a testament to the scientists who are doing a lot of the research that is validating the experience. So thank you for your work. And I want to move now to Goldie, who's an old friend, an old meditator, been doing it for many, many years. Goldie Hawn doesn't really need an introduction as an actress, but she's also a producer and a director, but the founder of the Hawn Foundation, which is doing a lot of work with children and schools and bringing mindfulness practices into schools. So Goldie, a little bit about why meditation came into your life, and then how you're serving by sharing this gift with the world.
Thank you very much. So back in 1972, I was rising to success really quickly and found myself really anxious. And I was psychologically, I really kind of didn't want to go out. People were expressing their affection or the other way around. And I really was taken aback because I was never ever believed I wanted to be a movie star. It was only just to dance and open a dancing school. But life doesn't always turn out the way we think it's going to, and I'm not complaining. But I will say that it did knock me back on my tushy. So I took the way on which, other than working into psychologist, but on meditation. And I was, at that point, I wanted to go, I wanted to learn about it. And in the 70s, it was definitely TM, Transcendental Meditation. And I went somewhere in Westwood. I was initiated. I meditated for the first time, and I was about 21. And I sat there, and I will never forget this feeling. And I want to share it, and it's always difficult to express feelings. It's like love. We've been writing poetry about it forever. But sometimes you can't always explain what it really feels like, but I'll try. When I sat there, the window was open, and the lace curtains were fluffing into the room, and the wind was coming in. and there was just a small little candle, and there was some incense being lit, which I'd never smelled before. And I sat there and I had a mantra, okay? So this is one mode of doing it. Many ways, which we'll talk later, about how we go about meditating and so forth. But in this particular practice, it was a sound. And I repeated this sound quietly. But what happened to me was I started to giggle. I know it sounds kind of normal for me, but it was truly an inner joy, an inner tickle, that thing that I could never define as a little girl, and I had lost. And I wanted to find it again. And so it came to me as I was learning to find my first quieting of the mind. And what happened is that my heart, and in my heart center, started to feel expansive. And I felt like I was finding my true self, my true being, right there for the first time, that I could actually sense my own heartbeat. So for me, meditation had a very powerful effect, okay? Now, as time has gone on, and this is 1972, I've been a meditator. I've also experienced different forms of meditation. I am a scientist by nature. I am very interested in research. And this is the very thing that as time has gone on, is that in a way, we can no longer look at meditation as any form of religiosity. It is so far practiced, and contemplative practice is basically in every religion known to man or created by man, but at the same time, this is pure science. And I ask the question, why aren't children learning about their brain? Why is it that we teach children in the classroom and we never give them any information on Command Central, which is what they have, their tools sitting right there on their little shoulders, to be able to know how to access information, how to change and understand the plasticity of their own brain, giving them the opportunity and the optimism to be able to say, I can do that. I can make sure I do that. I know why I do that. I know why I'm angry. I know how to mitigate my anger through breath and focus and quieting my mind, so I can quiet down my amygdala, my barking dog. So now my prefrontal cortex, my thinking brain, my executive function, they call it their PFC, gets to open, and now I can remember things. I can make better choices. I'm a thinking person. I'm not a reactive person. I had this dream 13 years ago. People said to me, you'll never do that. You'll never get meditation in the classroom. You will never teach children how their brains work. What age do you want to start? I want to start in kindergarten. I want to do kindergarten through 8th grade, because these are the primary years where we start setting patterns. Our brain starts to get comfortable with certain things. And this research was just too proven to sit in a petri dish in every university. It had to come out into our classroom and to our parents and to our teachers to change the way we teach our children in the classroom. And they looked at me like I had 6 heads. And that was 13 years ago. And today, things have changed. It's been a very hard road. We created a program called Mind Up. And Mind Up now has neuroscience at the start and the base. It has 3 times a day brain break for children during the classroom. Now they ask for it again for test taking themselves. We now have prosocial behavior. We've learned and taught children how to understand the difference between optimism and pessimism. We have kindness in the classroom, and we have gratitude journals that we create. All of these things shape the brain. They shape how children start connecting inside of their synapses instead of the neurons, how they connect now. So when we get into the Grand Canyon of negativity, we are now really creating a Grand Canyon of positivity. This is what we want. So while we create this, we ask, well, how do you do meditation in the classroom? Well, it's very tough to have 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night, even for those of us who are hard and true meditators. But we do it. But in the classroom, there's not time. So I believe we interweave it as we can interweave it into our day. So we do 3 times a day, 3 minutes, 4 minutes for each child, done. Changes the whole way the classroom runs, calms the children down, reduces their stress, and gives them an optimum experience in the classroom. This is what I have done for the last 13 years, putting together this program that is now close to serving 1 million children in 6 different countries.
Thanks.
So it is. I love making people laugh, but this part of my life has been one of the most exciting times of my life. So I know there's more, but that's what I'm doing, and that's how I got there.
Thank you, and we'll talk more about the effects that we're seeing in the kids. So I'm actually going to jump to Russell, and then Allan, I'll come back to you. So Russell, you've also been such a champion and advocate of everything from meditation to the happy vegan. Can you share a little bit, one, about your story, but then you are very much the poster of, success, and how has that influenced your journey? Has meditation been a part of that?
Well, my nickname was Rush. My company's still named Rush Communications, but so that was my nickname, and I always thought that this phonetic energy or this anxiety that drove me was the force that made me successful. And about 20 years ago, I started to go to yoga first. It was a little over 20 years ago, and I went to class, and I didn't go for the reason she went. I went because there was so many hot girls and no guys. It was like the cool. I couldn't even believe this shit. Unfucking. They didn't have yoga pants then, but it just had anyway. So I went to class because there was so many hot girls, and I came out of class. I was high as fuck. I was. Oh shit! What is this, right? Because I mean, for 1 second, I was present. A couple of seconds more than usual. I think everybody. All the meditators know that life's goal is to expound on those seconds of presence. I mean, it only happens now. You can't be transported to the future or the past or anything like that. You're stuck here. And the more you recognize that presence, the more moments of happiness you have, or creativity, or anything that you achieve or do or contribute to society comes from the seconds of presence and the idea of expanding those seconds of presence is one of the reasons we meditate. It actually is the only reason we meditate, but it's like you would say one. So for me, I went to class, and shortly after, I started to do physical meditation, because in the asana practice of physical yoga, it's moving meditation. This idea, smile and breathe in every difficult pose, and that's the physical asana or yoga practice. And a part of yoga, the 7th, 8th parts of yoga, is meditation. Interesting enough, meditation has been in every spiritual practice forever, and everybody would tell you to be still, and still it goes over the heads of most people. And for thousands of years, people have been doing it, but finally it started to stick. With Deepak, I'm on the board of the David Lynch Foundation with their work, and with Goldie, it's starting to stick. And the more important thing, because we're sitting here, and a bunch of people who probably don't meditate so much, is that look at the research. It's telling you what the monks have been telling you, and what all the spiritual teachers have told us forever. It's telling you that you need to meditate, and that you should operate from abundance, or from a present place, or from a happy place, and meditation does that for us. I always talk about the left and the right side of the brain, and all this research that she's done and they've been doing, but I can appeal to you. It makes you happy. And a lot of you guys probably know, but they don't internalize the idea that money doesn't make you happy, but happy makes you money, for those people still. If you're operating from a happy, present place, and you're focused, you're doing a good job, and whatever you think is the future, your next present moment becomes a little bit more alive. And so this, whatever you want to execute, you can only do it when you're present. So for me, the meditation experience, it started about 20 years ago. I've been addicted. I just wrote a book on it, Success Through Stillness, and it's very simple. My daughter told me the book was remedial at best. She was 11 when she told me that. She's now 13, and so she was 11 when she read it. I told her Oprah said it was one of the best books on the subject. And then she said, Oprah's for the masses, Dad. She gets it from her mother. So, I fell in love with it. I try to give it to everybody I can. I think it's important. What Goldie is doing is great. What the David Lynch Foundation, I was meditating long before I ran into Bob Roth. A lot of the stars called him Meditation Bob. I call him the monk because he's, literally does nothing wrong ever, never thinks a wrong thought, right? Would you agree that he's an unbelievable person? But, he I went to teach meditation somewhere, and he, gave me my little mantra. So I wrote a book that's mantra-based, and I believe all the forms of meditation, they don't all have the research that Goldie's now getting and that the TM people have and are getting, but it's all the same, this idea, whether it's candle gazing or with a mantra or with the breath, it quiets the mind, and that's all everyone ever wants. Life's only goal is a comfortable seat. There's nothing else they can give you. No matter how rich you are, you can only sit your ass in one seat at a time. And the more you learn to operate from that seat, and I also wrote a book called Super Rich, which is about this idea of needing nothing, which is the state of yoga or the state of Christ consciousness, nirvana, samadhi, what you call, all religions have a name for this God consciousness. And needing nothing is cool for the people here because needing nothing attracts everything. If there's a carrot, it attracts everything operating. You know that when you negotiate. But if you honestly need nothing and you work from the present place of happiness and awareness, then you will be more focused. You will do better. You may make more money and care less about it. You may be more successful. There is no chance that if you become a meditator that you won't become a better business person or a brighter mind for whatever you apply yourself to. So I'm addicted to it. We're here, all of us, to promote it because we want you to be addicted. And if the world meditated, we wouldn't be doing the dumb shit we do. And we would not abuse 100 billion animals to be the #1 cause of the destruction of our planet and poison ourselves. We wouldn't do it. We'd think about it, and it would come through our mind, in one ear and out the other. And when the second it stops in our brain, we say, that's no good. We stop with the animal stuff. People would stop. And they wouldn't be able to put people in ovens. They wouldn't be able to have mass, genocide. This shit couldn't happen if you were meditators because you watch your thoughts. And something in here gives you better direction than all the stuff out there. So that's my rap about it. I love meditation. I promote it to you. It's a simple thing. If you don't have 20 minutes to meditate, you need 2 hours.
Yeah.
I like Goldie's idea of doing it short and quick for kids over and over because you keep reminding them to be calm and let it go. And it doesn't mean people always think by letting go or needing nothing that you don't accomplish or do more. That 20 minutes that you take up will change your life. And if you do yoga and meditation, you say, Jesus, that's 2 hours out of my day. Then you will accomplish another 6 hours in your day. You will be way more productive. And you certainly, the most important thing is you'll be way happier. So that's just my wrap.
Thank you. And so then I did want to come to you, Allan, who is a teacher, who is the founder and guiding teacher of the Community Meditation Center in New York. And so first, it was in the teaser of the description, meditation can help you survive a plane crash. And I know that you have a story linked to that, but can you talk a little bit about that? But then also transition to my guess is we have many people here who have never meditated before. And how do people begin that journey?
Well, I will say that I've never known anyone who began the practice of meditation because they were concerned about being in a plane crash. I never thought it would happen to me either. I began also about 20 years ago, and no dramatic reason, just my own curiosity. My life was filled with wonderful things. I was a singer, actor. I had been in a few Broadway shows. And on the other end of the spectrum, like anyone else, I've experienced the death of my parents, of my brother, a rather normal life filled with ups and downs. And then I just really became curious, and I began to study with a wonderful master named Thich Nhat Hanh, who is Vietnamese. He's had a big influence in the Western world as well. And then I wanted to work more directly on my own practice, understanding on a deeper level what was going on within me and ultimately leading to what I might be able to contribute. So I spent the next 10 years working one-on-one with a woman named Sharon Salzberg, who was one of the 3 people who brought the teachings of the Buddha back to the United States back in the beginning of the 70s. Sharon tells a story about it being so new at that time that if she said to someone she was a meditation teacher, the first thing they said was, "Oh, do you know Richard Gere?" And for those of you who don't know, Richard is sort of a well-known meditator. Today, things have changed, as has been mentioned. During my time with Sharon, I had a strong urge to begin a meditation center myself, and what is also called a Dharma Center, which is teaching the wisdom teachings from the East. And it grew, and today is one of the biggest, certainly in New York and in the United States. During that time, I also wrote my first book, and then my second book. And the third book was something unexpected, as was mentioned. 3.5 years ago, we were traveling in Burma, or in Myanmar, if you prefer. And my wife and I were in a serious plane crash. There were 71 of us on the plane. People died. Some people were seriously injured, according to the reports. I was the most seriously injured. I managed to be able to push my wife out of the emergency exit, even though it was engulfed in flames. And I intended to follow right after her, but my foot caught on something, and I couldn't move. I had no idea what it was because I couldn't see because of the dense smoke that I was in. And I spent, the doctors estimated, about 60 seconds in the fire. It's an estimate because that part is blocked out of my memory. What therapists call the benevolent brain came to my rescue. But in the course of all of the interviews and television, newspaper, radio that followed, there were a couple of questions that were always asked. And one, of course, was, you've been a meditator for 20 years. Did that help you in this circumstance? So I've always made it a point to say that what I'm about to share with you, I cannot prove. But some things seem to me very obvious, such as, in the time that I was actually in the fire, I knew that I was in the fire, and I knew I was in desperate trouble. I was beyond scared, terrified. Yet at the same time, I distinctly remember being absolutely calm. And to this day, that seems to me an odd combination, to be terrified and calm at the same time. I believe that if I had not been calm, I would not have been able to figure out what kept me stuck and then been able to free myself. Then afterward, I was asked so many times, didn't you ever wonder or ask yourself, why me? Why did this happen to me? And the truth is, that question never occurred to me. And if it had, the only logical answer would have been, why not me? Things happen to people. And in meditation, you actually get to see that clearly, because that's the time when we stop our busyness. We're all busy. Those of you perhaps who are retired, you're busy planning your golf date. You're busy making your phone call for what movie you're going to see, who you're going to go to lunch with. We stop that busyness for 5 minutes, or, if you're addicted, since that word was used, I rather think hooked on the practice, then maybe it's 30 or 60 minutes. But in that time, we stop our busyness and we sit down with just the mind. And when I did this early on, I found it one of the most frightening things I had ever done, because all of that stuff that had accumulated through the years was there. And some of it I hadn't thought about for decades, and some of it had just happened that morning. And there I was, alone with my mind. And yet, it became the most significant thing that I've ever done in my life. And I became committed to sharing this with others, not from a perspective of you should do this, but just from the perspective of this has worked really well for me. You might want to try it.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So Goldie and Russell, you both work with children. And Goldie, can you walk us through, because I think, again, for people who the idea of meditation, they feel like they should do it because it has all these health benefits, but they don't even know how to begin. How do you begin with children? How do you introduce them to these concepts? And then can you share some of the benefits you've seen in the schools and the communities you've worked with?
Yes, obviously we make it very simple for them. And one of the things that makes the children attend quicker is the sound of a chime. And we do it because we ask them to listen to this chime very intently until they can't hear it anymore. And then when they can't hear it any longer, they turn their hands over on their desk, in their circle, wherever the teacher wants to put them. There are no hard rules. By attending to this sound, it begins to quiet the children down right away. And what we found is the children who used to turn their hands over really quickly, after time, could listen to the chime longer. So they had a greater ability to attend, which is what we all would like to do, and not have our brains be monkey and jump around this way and the other way, and have some level of control. So then we ask them to follow their breath. So after they hear the sound, we have them follow their breath. And what we say to them is that every brain thinks. That's what brains do. And our brains are going to think. But when we have a thought, we want that to look at it as it's a cloud passing in the sky. Don't hook onto that cloud. You come back to your breathing, in and out. And focus on your breathing. Oh, there's another thought. Oh, there's another thought. That's okay. The brain is a thinking organ. It's going to do that. You forgive yourself for thinking, but don't hang on to your thinking. You have to come back to your breath. Okay, so we're watching our mind. We are not thinking and holding on to our thoughts. So let's do it that way. And that's how we start with the children. And in the beginning, we say, it's okay to be fidgety. You know, if you want to twitch, if you want to do, it's okay. If you want to keep your eyes open, it's okay. You don't have to close your eyes if you don't want. It's everyone does this in a sense to who they are and their comfort zone. The beautiful thing is that eventually it becomes a part of them. It becomes a part of a comfortable couch, and you suddenly feel, oh, I'm back again. And I remember a teaching that Maharishi, and I remember this in the very beginning, that it's as if you're a teacup full of water, and the tea bag dips in, and it comes out. And as you deep in, you go a little bit deeper into your thinking. And sometimes there's this wonderful space between your thought. That's a beautiful space. You're not thinking, you're being. But then it comes up again, another thought comes out. But then it goes back in with your breath and your focus. And sometimes it saturates just a little bit more, but it comes out again. And this is the process. So this is how we talk to our kids. This is how we talk about the way in which to do it. That is, no wrong answer,
And Russell, what about, I know with the David Lynch Foundation, you also are going into many schools in underprivileged communities as well. What are you seeing?
Well, you see dramatic shifts in the schools. You see schools where they were incredibly violent. Reduction in violence is the first thing, is crystal clear. The grades go up. People's level of compassion and relationship with each other is improved dramatically. The teachers become happier because they got to learn first. So we have the same experiences. I think the research must be the same. I like the Maharishi's thing. Thoughts come and they go. Sometimes you can watch the thought, and if it's just like you have a scratch. You have to scratch. The thought may be something that's a little bit pressing, and you'll think it for a minute, and it'll go. Like the cloud that she describes. So it's kind of the same, the teachings. But the results are crystal clear, and they're the same. Schools and children who meditate do better. Cheap form of, improving the school system. Dramatically different schools can be just because the kids meditate. And again, you learn so much more, so much quicker. It's okay to spend a few minutes in stillness.
Is it good for us to chit chat?
Go.
Yeah.
Because we both are, agree, and we're both watching our children. And it's the most profound difference that we had, and we've done all our research and so forth, but continuing to do it. Russell's exactly right. Our aggression on the playground went way down. The kids working together in the classroom in a homogeneous way is together. More empathy, which is something our children are losing, is this empathetic nature is now showing up in the classroom. I mean, and the fact that a child now can actually express the reason how he mitigated his fighting back because his amygdala was on fire. I have a funny story. So one of our kids was like 6, and he was brought in because he was misbehaving. And the principal said to him, Juan, why are you here? He said, well, my amygdala was overactive and my prefrontal cortex wasn't thinking. And he's 6. So it was, this is the kind of thing that you really, it is connected to our future, isn't it? These kids will create tomorrow.
Yes.
I wanted to ask Sara also.
Let me just say one thing, because I know we have 20 minutes for questions.
Yeah.
The mind will settle no matter what. As the nervous system calms, so goes the mind. So all of these forms of meditation are very valid. What he's learned from the Vietnamese monk, or what mindfulness, or the TM, Transcendental Meditation, all of it. Sit and be still. We're going to have a meditation too, so we don't have that much time. But it always settles. And anybody who operates from a still place, no one ever does anything of any significance. The second that a joke hits you, you giggle because everything goes away. The future, the past, the joke hits you. Laugh, you can laugh. No happiness comes except for the present, those who are present. In the seconds that they're present, there's the flashes of happiness. The noise in the mind is the cause of sadness, and the quiet mind is the cause of happiness. It's that simple. And so children need that. They need to quiet the noise and the suffering and sit with the silence and the bliss. It's that simple. It's not something new age shit. It's way before this country, these teachers, it's way before, and it's in all the scriptures, and they must not all be wrong. But now we have proof through science that they're right. So we're just putting it on you and, to share. And that's what we all kind of do, is try to spread this idea and save, we can think more clearly. More of us thinking more clearly will make a difference, each one of us, one at a time.
And we are actually going to do a guided meditation, but before we get into that, there are so many different techniques. Even on the stage, many of us do different techniques, whether it's a mantra-based technique or mindfulness. And Sara, I wanted to ask you, in terms of the research, are you seeing the same benefits if you do yoga versus a mantra-based meditation versus mindfulness versus going for a run on the beach? Right. What is the research showing?
Right. There hasn't been a lot of data directly comparing Form 1 versus Form 2, but every form that has been studied seems to have beneficial benefits, health benefits. And so we like to think of it as exercise for the mind. And so it's sort of like asking, what's better, running or swimming, right? And so all forms of meditation seem to have general stress reduction benefits, but there seems to be some maybe subtle differences, sort of like weight training versus aerobic exercise. There's little differences in the benefits, and so it's still pretty early, so there's not real concrete data on it yet. But there are some suggestions that yes, but sort of just like running versus swimming. Some people love to run and hate to swim, and vice versa. So I always encourage people to try a couple different types. Some people love mantra, some people hate it, and so just whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, great. So why don't we wanted to actually give an experience of a short meditation, and then afterwards give some time for questions. And so, Goldie, maybe you can set the stage for what people can expect, and then Allan is going to guide us in a meditation before we have questions.
Okay, well, first of all, we want to get comfortable and relax. And I would advise those of us who are worried about our belly sticking out to just forget about it. And let them go. Just let it all go. And you settle in your chair, and you really relax, into your chair or into your floor, however you prefer. And check in with your body and make sure you can feel yourself completely relaxed. We're gonna actually now watch our brain. Okay, so we're gonna be inside of that a little bit. And as I said before, I want to ask you to forgive yourself, and that means don't be hard on yourself that you can't go into some state of oneness right now. You really are going to understand how to witness your thoughts, come back to your breath, and notice that your breath will change. It'll get fast, then it'll slow down, then suddenly you'll feel like you have to take a deep breath. It's all what you should be doing. So you really need to trust all of your bodily function, all of your instincts, and one thing, do not attach to your thoughts. Please let them go and come back to your breath.
Starting with the body, if you can let your both feet rest comfortably on the floor. And again, if you are comfortable to do so and can come slightly forward from the back of the chair and have a long, straight back, but without stress or strain. Let your hands be where they would like to be. And for the next several minutes, if you can, let your hands remain still. And this one form of practice that we'll do today begins by bringing your awareness to the sensations of the breath. That means to rest your awareness lightly on the sensations that you experience with the in-breath and the out-breath. You might be able to notice those sensations just inside the nostrils. You might notice a sense of coolness with the in-breath. The out-breath might have a little tingle and warmth. Don't be concerned at all if you don't notice those sensations. You could move your awareness to the upper lip and see what you notice there. You could even move your awareness to the broad expanse of the abdomen, expanding and contracting. We'll call the sensations of the breath your anchor, or in the more technical terms, it's referred to as an object of concentration. So when the mind wanders, which it will do, just gently bring your awareness back to the breath. Do this without self-criticism. You're not doing anything wrong. Do it without judgment. Just practice. In, out. Thoughts will arise. And the practice is just being aware of the thoughts, not trying to deny them. You might be thinking, oh, I'm so glad that I'm here. Or you might be thinking, why am I doing this? And they're just thoughts. As you become aware of a thought, bring your awareness back to the sensations of the breath. And for the next 3 or 4 minutes, see if you can follow just one breath. As we come to the end of this short session of practice, you'll be moving your hands, your toes, your fingers. See if your awareness can remain so keen that you can practically feel your eyelids as your eyes open. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you. So we wanted to open up for some questions. I'm not sure if anyone has a question, come up here. And before you ask the first question, I am curious, for who here was this their first ever meditation? Okay, so not too many. We had a lot of meditators here.
Wow.
That's great. Yeah.
Impressive.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the whole panel, and that practice was fantastic. I've been practicing since December, when I was a little stressed myself, and my wife suggested I look for some ways to calm myself. I work in finance. I have to get the medical benefits. Can we practice for 5 minutes a day? Is it 30 minutes or 60 minutes? Where is that? I'm doing 15 minutes now. Is that enough? Do we need more? How do I think about that, or what is the?
I would say, how many minutes are you doing now?
15.
That's wonderful. 15 minutes is terrific. It gives you time to really, examine and go deep and, and so forth. It would be great if you had an opportunity in the evening at some point, lock yourself in the bathroom or wherever, and have another 15 or 10. I think the more your body and your mind gets used to the idea, that the brain gets to habituate on some of these ideas, it's going to be even more beneficial for you. That would be my note.
And I'll just add, I grew up in a family of meditating since I was 9. I am the first to admit I'm a very irregular meditator. I do not meditate, I'm sorry, Russell and Goldie, 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. I try to find 15 minutes once a day. Mm-hmm. It's just where I am in my life right now, with 2 young kids and running around and busy, that I don't find the time. But if I do find that 15 minutes, what I find is I start yearning more of that time, because that's my time and that's my peaceful time. So does the research show anything? I'm curious.
Right. There's not a ton of research on it, but it does suggest that even 5 minutes can be beneficial. And in general, there's a correlation between the more you practice, the more you benefit to a certain extent. But yeah, I think the main thing is just doing what you can.
The key thing that we found is not so much whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or an hour, but that it's consistent, that it's every day, as close as you can come to every day. I had a teacher who said, at worst, at least get into the physical position.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to head to the back. We have a question. If I want to introduce this to my school system and district, what kind of resistance do you expect in your experience I would encounter?
Yeah.
I know Goldie wants to end. I do too. And it's not politics, right? But I went to Chicago, where they needed it as much as anywhere. And there was all kinds of resistance. And one of the things that parents said, they should spend more time in school, not less. And this was the mayor. He's an angry person. He needs to meditate. Oh, you know him? Oh my God, I'm sorry. No. And it was interesting in the meeting that there was a nun who had, and of course, they don't want it to be religious. And so we had this big forum. We had 1,000 educators, 1,000. And the woman who ran all the Catholic schools, and she had, in the state, it was huge. She's this nun. They said, we all meditate. We don't call it meditation. We call it quiet time. Because if you say meditation, that people think of it as, do you call it quiet time? You call it mindfulness, right? So
No, we call it, we do a brain break, but when you're
Brain break,
finished,
right.
I'll explain my experience too, because
But yeah, you find, we had a school in Africa, which was all doing TM, and it was fantastic, and the kids were growing, and the parents shut it down, and they thought it was religious. It was in South Africa, Johannesburg. So there is a lot of resistance from a religious side, although being quiet and sitting by yourself should not scare any religious person, but it does. And then there's resistance, the amount of time you're wasting on the kids, and there's all kinds of resistance. And it's kind of shocking when the teachers learn, the teachers are thrilled to teach the kids, and when the research comes back, then they're thrilled to show the research. But, and we've got hundreds of thousands of kids, and Goldie's got a million kids or whatever. So we are slowly making inroads. The research is too overwhelming for us not to. But it took that. I mean, all the work that the David Lynch Foundation was doing and all the work that Goldie was doing, it all got, I think, I'm just guessing for you, Goldie, I'm pretty sure that everything started to speed up the minute they started to write the research and the benefits that children get. We still have a long way to go because we have a lot of people now, despite the research, who are resistant. So yes, there is a tremendous amount in some schools.
Pushback. Okay, we have a few minutes left. I just want to say that we have the entire Reno School District. Now that's top down. So we have several school districts that are top down. And one of the exciting parts of it is that we don't get any pushback. But we don't get pushback because we're very brain-centric. We're very, very based in science. I want to make sure that that is what it is because, frankly, that is the truth. The fact that I personally have my own personal beliefs has nothing to do with this, but it has to do with research science and what our children are facing today.
You got to go to Rahm Emanuel.
And what? Yeah, I got to talk to Ram. You better believe it. So anyway, with this school district, we have 65,000 children doing Mind Up. It's awesome. It's exciting. There's no pushback. There's only people excited about it. Every now and then, and I've said in 13 years, I've only had 3 people say, this is religion. So the idea here is that, and you're right, we finally come of age. We've been doing this now for many, many years. And now people are looking at this very differently in terms of languaging or fearfulness or religiosity that they're imprinting, and you're trying to teach my children this. So I would say we've come a long way, and in what we've done, because this particular program is very, very scientifically based, makes a big difference. It's sort of, what is your point of entry with your teachers? The head of Teachers College at Columbia, Susan Furman, is on our board. So we're now looking at getting it into teachers' colleges. So they really are armed. So scaling will then no longer be an issue, right? So, this is how we're working forward. But it's exciting, isn't it?
Of course.
It's an exciting time.
The principal, the teachers, and then the students. Because no one's not going to get it. I mean, and there are whole districts like where we have TM in most of Oakland and San Francisco. And then you come to some places where, and I was starting to tell you about the nun because every one of her students in all of the, I think there are 10, 15,000, they all have quiet time, and they all have 20 minutes of quiet time, which is, that's her. And she got tremendous, tremendous resistance. And there is still resistance because it's too obvious an idea not to turn down. So if Goldie can get a whole school district and we can get a whole school district and get the research back from Oakland and San Francisco and other places, then it'll just start to trickle up, and I think that's what we have to do. We have a lot of work to do.
Did you say trickle up?
Yeah, I don't believe it.
No, I'm just checking because I kind of love that.
Yeah?
In our center, I'm sorry. I was going to say, in our center in New York, we begin a session on Sunday mornings at 10:30, and some people come running in because they've just been at their church. And then others have been in the synagogue on Saturday morning, and they come in and they're absolutely comfortable to be meditating.
Fantastic.
No dogma.
So with that, want to thank everyone on this panel. Such an honor to be here with all of you. And thank you all for joining us.